Good afternoon. Today I'm going to analyze The Great Gatsby, fragment number 5. So, The Great Gatsby was written by Scott Fitzgerald. It is a novel that takes place in Long Island, a place near New York, during the 1920s, which are the years of the economic boom in the United States, where the stock market gets power. And there is a strong industrial development that created the new rich, which are people focused on gain easy money. It is a modernist novel since the author makes a criticism of the rich and the corruption inside society. The fragment is part of the climax of the story when Daisy is driving Tom's car accompanied by Gatsby, after they came from a meeting with Tom, Nick, and Jordan in an apartment in New York. In the despair of the moment, there is a conflict between Wilson and Myrtle because he found that she had an affair with another man. And Myrtle gets out from the house, disturbed, asking for help to a car coming, and the car did not stop, and finally caused her death. The significance of this fragment is that it is the climax of the story, and it affects the relation between characters, specifically between Gatsby and Daisy, since it is a critical point in Daisy's decision. It is also a moment that affects Gatsby's destinies, considering it is the reason of his final assassination. The things that are going to be analyzed are the criticism done to Gatsby and Daisy's obsession of being together, the male supremacy showed, and the tone used by the narrator. The fragment begins with a criticism in Gatsby and Daisy's situations from Nick. He's denouncing their idea of sticking to the past. This specifically appears in the sentence, but there was Jordan besides me, who, unlike Daisy, was too wise ever to carry well-forgotten dreams from age to age. So in here, Nick is making a comparison between Daisy and Jordan, which complements their characterization shown throughout the story, since Daisy is shown as idealistic, since she's trying to stick to the past and relive those moments with Gatsby, while Jordan is different from her and she's more realistic and she's not stuck into the past. The criticism to Daisy. This obsession is handled throughout the story since Gatsby's principal objective is to recover Daisy, and he does crazy acts in order to reach it, and this is the connection to the core theme of the novel. The use of premonition to introduce the climax. The use of premonition in the fragment helps to introduce the reader into the feeling that a fatal event is going to happen, is near. This premonition is present in the phrase, "So we drove on toward death through the cooling twilight." So in here it changes the mood inside the story and sets the feeling of proximity of death of a character that is about to happen, especially with the use of expressions like driving toward death and the use of the symbol of the cooling twilight, which approximates the reader to the fatal event. Through Wilson and Myrtle relationship showed in this fragment, the male social supremacy is shown and criticized by the author, specifically in the part "I've got my wife locked up in there," explained Wilson calmly. She's going to stay there till the day after tomorrow, and then we're going to move away. Michaelis was astonished. They had been neighbors for 4 years, and Wilson had never seemed plainly capable of such a statement. So, in here, Wilson shows his supremacy by punishing his wife for having an affair with another man, and he does this through violence. And by this, he's giving an image of domination inside Myrtle's life. But then this domination is broken with the expressions, beat me, he heard her cry, throw me down and beat me, you dirty little coward. So this is said by Myrtle as a claim against Wilson's imposition and violence, being a rebellion against him. So this connection to the core themes of the novel is that male supremacy represented in the whole text, principally through Tom's double moral, since he can have an affair with another woman without any problem, which is Myrtle. While if Daisy has an affair with another man, that is Gatsby, there is going to be a big conflict for who is the one who is going to win this fight to conquer Daisy. And also it is shown through Wilson's attitude towards Myrtle, that it was explained in the fragment, since he loved his wife because she had an affair with another man. The tone in this fragment begins with a reflexive tone, since it is criticizing Tom's attitude after the conflict he had with Gatsby and Daisy, but also it is reflexive since he makes a comparison between the characters of Daisy and Jordan, that it was explained before, because Daisy is shown as idealistic while Jordan is more realistic. Then it turns aggressive with the conflict between Myrtle and Wilson. But it finally becomes tragic and tense when the narration of the accident begins. So it changes with the premonition, so we drop toward death through the cooling twilight. So in this point it turns aggressive because the conflict between Wilson and Myrtle begins, and when the narration of the accident begins, since this narration is supported by the use of imagery and exclamations in the characters' dialogues, this tone is shown tense, specifically when Myrtle expresses, beat me, he heard her cry, throw me down and beat me, you dirty little coward. So by this, Myrtle is challenging Wilson and creating the tense and the drama in the mood, while in the description of the accident, where her light violently extinguished, knelt in the road and mingled her thick dark blood with the dust, the use of descriptive language get the reader to get a visual image of the tragic consequences and the resolution, which is Myrtle's death. So the conclusions. Their fragment corresponds to the climax of the story that is expressed by the premonitions, which is the death of a character, which in this case is Myrtle, due to a car accident that, okay. Also, criticism to Daisy and Gatsby relationship is done, since they are trying to stick to the past when it is not possible to relive it. Also, the control of men is shown over women in the relationship between Wilson and Myrtle, but there is a rebellion of the women that, against her husband. And there is a shift of the tone from the narrator that becomes reflexive, that begins being reflexive, then turns to aggressive, and finally it becomes tragic and tense with the help of imagery and exclamations with the help of descriptive language.